Hey guys, Has here at Shield K9, and today I want to talk about making an active dog in obedience and kind of some of what I do to train for this and create this in a dog. Now, just to be clear, an active dog is a dog that brings power to the obedience, a dog that begs for the obedience. They're pushing you actively to do the obedience. You are not asking them to do the obedience, they are begging you to do the obedience. A reactive dog is the opposite of that, kind of like the attitude is more, all right, tell me what to do and I'll do it, you know. When you're doing competition obedience, you need an active dog because an active dog is going to be the kind of dog that doesn't fall flat on the field. An active dog is going to be a kind of dog that actually, if anything, powers up during the routine and becomes more flashy and more driven. Now, for this video, I'm going to use this dog here, Canine Gotham, and he's a 2-year-old dog that came to us. You know, was a pet, didn't really do anything before he got to us, and he is, you know, your quintessential reactive dog. Very little interest in the handler, as you can see. Very little engagement. Has a ton of drive, a ton of energy. He has a lot of potential. Very, very nice German Shepherd. One of the nicest I've seen in a long time. But he, you know, has zero engagement with the handler. So I have started him in training for competition obedience, and I am starting to teach him here to be active. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the process that I use for this. As you can see, I have back tied him to a post. Here, you know, you can see that he's in a down, but he's barking. And the problem with that is we haven't started the game yet, and he's just barking. And this is leaking. Leaking is not desirable. It's not a useful expenditure of energy. I need this dog to understand that when it's time to bring the power, he needs to bring the power. But when it's time to do obedience, he needs to be calm. So at this stage in the training, you know, in the beginning, I just worked on him being active, him barking at me. And then when he barked at me, he would get a reward. And the reward could be me moving. As you can see here, I move a lot when he barks. Or it could be me offering him food, and then I let him kind of chase my hand a little bit for the food. Right, so at this point now, I'm starting to incorporate a little bit of obedience as well as obligation to the barking, or sorry, to the activity, right? So sometimes I ask him to go from being active to being obedient. So here you see I'm asking him to do a sit. Now the problem with this sit is he sits and then he barks. So every time he barks, I pull forward on the slip lead that I have on him. Or if he looks away as he sits, I pull forward until he looks at me. I need the dog to be focused. I need him to be under control. Again, leaking is not a productive form of activity. A lot of people create a lot of activity in the dog, but then the activity is directed in all sorts of unproductive directions, right? Like whether it's in the obedience where the dog's supposed to be calm and under control, they're barking, or whether it's, you know, at the environment. You see with him a lot of the times too, when he's barking at me, sometimes he'll actually look away and bark at other stuff, and then when he does that, I'll pop him on the slip lead, or, you know, I'll pull on the slip lead until he looks back at me and starts directing his energy towards me. For me, creating an active dog is a dog that's, you know, he has a lot of power to give. He's got a lot of energy, and I want to teach him, bring that energy all to me, push me, beg me to do this work, you know, fight me almost to do this work. I want that power from you because I know you have a lot to give. But whenever he displaces that power into the environment, which is his habit, you know, immediately you see me right there, you know, like he saw somebody walk by and he immediately, you know, just started barking at them and looking at them, and immediately I just turned the pressure on. The other thing that you'll see me doing here, and I'm not really going to get into it so much in this video, is I use the slip lead and create oppositional pressure and basically lure the dog into the correct positions. And I want him to fight that slip lead into every position, whether it's a sit, a down, a foos, or sorry, I should say a heel, for those of you that don't know German commands. And when he's not doing it correctly, I just apply that oppositional pressure to the slip lead. And then when the dog does the correct behavior, the pressure goes away, right? So there's a lot going on here. I'm going to, like I said, try to talk my way through some of it just so you can understand. You can see here too, I go from obedience to power and then back again, right? So like I'll ask him to do something, maybe I'll reward him, maybe I won't, and then from there I'll tell him, okay, be active again. And then when he's active towards me, immediately I'll reward him either with movement or with the food reward, and thus I'm starting to condition this dog to go from being active to being obedient to being active again. And this is where you get that really nice picture of a dog that's in drive, a dog that has the correct emotions when they're performing, you know, that routine on the field or in the obedience ring. And that's what we're all after. I think a lot of people accidentally create a reactive dog. They mean a lot of reactive dogs actually have a lot of drive. It's just a mistake that was in the training, done in the training. And I've made that mistake many times myself, where you have a dog that has a lot of food drive or a lot of ball drive, but the dog actually is really not active. They're reactive, and you've conditioned them to be unable to work without those helpers, those tools. If he doesn't see his ball, he's not going to be powerful. You see it all the time. Like, the dog looks great on the training field when the ball's under the handler's armpit, that he heels beautifully. Second the ball's out of the picture, second he hasn't gotten his ball within the 2 minutes, or hasn't gotten a food reward, the dog starts to look flatter and flatter and flatter. And like I said, I've had that same problem myself. So the goal is always to create a dog that understands that being active gets him the ultimate reward, whether it's food, whether it's ball, whether it's engagement with the handler. Ultimately, if you do this enough, the dog actually derives dopamine from performing the obedience behaviors, because they become so conditioned to believe that the obedience leads to the reward, especially if you have a dog that's suitable for the work, like Gotham is. Gotham's an excellent dog. He has a ton of drive, and he's actually a fairly hard dog as well when it comes to the handling. So he's not sensitive. So for me, I like working this kind of dog. He's a very powerful German Shepherd, and like I said, one that I haven't seen one this good in a while, I think. Anyways, so as you can see here, going back to the obedience, and a lot of handlers do the monkey dance, right? And the monkey dance is, they go out there and they beg their dog to pay attention to them, especially when they go to a new place. You see the dog tends to, not be paying attention to them. The handlers kissing their teeth and jumping around. I don't do the monkey dance. I think true engagement comes from the dog knowing that it's good to be engaged, but also understanding that there's an obligation to be engaged, right? And I think a lot of people miss the obligation piece. They definitely get the reward piece. They reward the dog heavily for engagement, whether it's with food or with toys or with praise, but they never teach the dog, hey, it's also not an option. When I ask you to engage with me, I mean engage with me. And if you don't engage with me, I'm going to make it impossible for you to self-satisfy through the environment. And a lot of dogs are very good at self-satisfying through the environment. So I think any true training for engagement and building a truly active dog involves a portion of obligation. And you see me doing that a little bit with the slip lead pressure as well. So again, making the obedience, rewarding the obedience, jumping back and forth between the activity and the obedience. That, for me, is my process for creating an active dog. And we are about halfway there here. Still a long ways to go. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them below.